At 38, Michael Turner began noticing something subtle but uncomfortable. Nothing in his life had collapsed. His job was stable. His finances were steady. From the outside, everything looked reasonable. But quietly, his life no longer felt like it was moving toward anything. The moment arrived on an ordinary Thursday evening. Michael was standing in his kitchen waiting for the kettle to boil. The townhouse was silent. Not the kind of silence that feels peaceful. The kind that settles into the walls when a place has been quiet for too long. He leaned against the counter and checked his phone while the kettle heated. A notification appeared. An old college friend had posted an update. Michael tapped the photo without thinking. It showed a group of men standing together in front of a large house under construction. The caption read, "Finally building the place we always talked about." Michael studied the image longer than he expected. Then he locked the phone and placed it face down on the counter. The kettle finished boiling, but he stood there for a few seconds longer, for reasons he couldn't fully explain. The next morning the office felt unusually busy. Michael arrived early, as he usually did. The building still smelled faintly of fresh coffee and printer ink. His team gathered in the conference room for their weekly operations review. The meeting moved quickly through shipping delays, route adjustments, and staffing issues. Michael had been running meetings like this for years. He knew the rhythm well. Halfway through the presentation, one of the younger analysts stood up to present a logistics optimization proposal. The man was confident, clear, organized. Michael noticed something he had not paid attention to before. The analyst was probably 27, maybe 28, young enough to still carry the energy of someone who believed the future was wide open. As the presentation continued, Michael realized something uncomfortable. The leadership team had started looking at the younger man differently, not just as an employee, but as someone with potential. Michael had heard that word many times earlier in his career. Potential. Now it seemed to belong to someone else. Later that evening, Michael stopped by a small neighborhood bar on his way home. It was the kind of quiet place where the bartender remembered your usual drink. He sat at the counter and ordered a beer. A baseball game played silently on the television above the bar. After a few minutes, he noticed a group of men sitting at the far end of the room. They were laughing loudly, talking about something work-related. One of them mentioned closing a deal. Another talked about relocating his family to a larger house. Michael didn't know them personally, but their conversation felt familiar. Ambition, momentum, plans. The bartender set his drink down. Michael thanked him and took a slow sip. Then he looked around the room. For the first time in a while, he had a quiet realization. At 38, he no longer felt like he belonged to the group that was still building something. But he also did not feel old enough to be finished. He felt somewhere in between, and he wasn't sure what that meant. That night, Michael sat on the couch in his living room with the lights dimmed. The television was on, but he wasn't really watching it. Outside, the street was quiet. Occasional headlights moved across the ceiling as cars passed. Michael leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. He thought about the past 10 years of his life. Most of it had been spent doing what he believed responsible men were supposed to do. Work hard, stay steady, avoid unnecessary risks, provide stability. For a long time, that formula had made sense. But now something about it felt incomplete. Not wrong, just unfinished. The thought stayed with him for several days. At work, in the car, standing in line at the grocery store. It wasn't panic. It wasn't regret. It was something quieter, a growing question. Michael had spent most of his adult life becoming someone dependable, someone stable, someone others could count on. But recently, he began to wonder something he had never seriously asked before. If responsibility had shaped most of his decisions, then whose life had he actually been building? Over the next few weeks, Michael began noticing small details about his life that had once felt invisible. His morning routine rarely changed. Wake up, coffee, commute, work, dinner, sleep. At one point in his life, that structure had felt disciplined. Now it felt automatic, like a system that continued running even when the purpose behind it had become unclear. The strange part was that nothing in his life looked broken. His performance reviews were strong. His savings account was healthy. His colleagues respected him. From the outside, Michael's life looked like the result of good decisions. But inside, something felt strangely neutral. Not satisfied, not unhappy, just directionless. The feeling was difficult to explain. It wasn't failure. It was more like standing on a road that no longer seemed to lead anywhere new. Some evenings he would sit at his desk after everyone else had left the office. The building became quiet. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above him. In those moments, Michael sometimes felt a subtle tightness in his chest. Not anxiety exactly, but a quiet pressure. The kind that appears when a man realizes he has been moving forward for years without stopping to question where the road actually leads. The thought returned more frequently now. Am I still building something? Or am I just maintaining what already exists? That distinction had never felt important before. Now it did. One Sunday morning, Michael went for a long walk through a nearby park. The trail curved through tall trees and open grass fields. Families were scattered across the park. Kids running, dogs chasing tennis balls, couples pushing strollers. Michael walked slowly along the path, watching, thinking. He realized something about the way men often measure themselves. Most men learn early that their worth is tied to what they can provide. Stability, income, security, those things matter. But somewhere along the way, many men stop asking another question. Not what am I responsible for, but who am I becoming while I carry those responsibilities? Michael had spent most of his life trying to be reliable. He had avoided reckless choices. He had built something steady, but steady was not the same as meaningful. For many years, he had assumed the path would eventually reveal itself. But standing there in the park at 38, Michael realized something important. Responsibility builds structure. But structure alone does not create purpose. Most men do not feel lost because they failed. They feel lost because they followed the rules too carefully. They built stability. They built responsibility. And one day, they quietly realize, no one ever explained what comes next. The shift in Michael's thinking did not happen overnight. There was no dramatic breakthrough. Just a slow change in how he looked at his days. One evening, he stayed late at the office again. The building was nearly empty. Michael leaned back in his chair and looked around the quiet room. For the first time, he asked himself a question he had avoided for years. If nothing about my life was technically wrong, then what exactly am I waiting for? The question stayed in the room for several seconds. He realized he had been waiting for clarity, for certainty, for the moment when the next step would feel obvious. But life rarely offers that kind of signal. Most of the time, direction is built slowly, through small decisions, through quiet adjustments, through action taken before confidence appears. Michael understood something that night. Uncertainty was not the problem. Passivity was. Over the next few months, Michael began making small changes to his routine. Nothing dramatic, but noticeable. He stopped staying late at the office unless it was necessary. Instead, he used the extra time to think, to read, to explore interests he had ignored for years. He began running again on weekends instead of only lifting weights at the gym. The long runs gave him time to think without interruption. He started reconnecting with old friends he had not spoken to in years, not because it would advance his career, just because he realized he had allowed too many relationships to fade while chasing stability. At work, he also began mentoring younger employees, helping them navigate the early stages of their careers. Michael stopped measuring his life only by progress. He began measuring it by direction. And direction, he discovered, could change at any age. By the time Michael turned 39, his life still looked very similar from the outside. Same job, same townhouse, same routines, but internally something had shifted. He no longer believed that life followed a fixed timeline. Some of the most important decisions in a man's life happen later, when comparison loses its power, when illusions fade, when a man finally begins asking deeper questions about who he wants to become. Michael had learned something simple but difficult. Time does not automatically create meaning. Responsibility does not automatically create identity. Those things only provide the structure. The rest must be built deliberately, one decision at a time. At some point in every man's life, there comes a quiet moment when the path ahead stops feeling obvious. It does not mean you failed. It may simply mean responsibility alone is no longer enough, and the next step requires something deeper, a decision about direction, not just movement. If that moment ever arrives for you, the real question may not be whether you are behind. The real question might be simpler. What kind of man are you becoming from this point forward?